We're back, people, and today we're breaking up film on the Miami Dolphins offense versus the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, disappointing that they're not able to get the win. Offense went out there and just played undisciplined, especially early on. They made too many mistakes. Some little things happened because, especially in the second half, the Dolphins offense was able to have some nice drives, but were left too many points on the field. I think the red zone play calling, that's where I really had problems with McDaniel in this game, was basically down in the red zone, across the board. Really early on, you just were so undisciplined. So many holding calls. You got the pre-snap penalties that just were ruining drives. And basically, you ruined your first drive with penalties, and I think poor play calling. And after your first drive, the Dolphins are already down 14-0. You lost the game off the rip. It felt like going down from basically the muffed punt special teams gave them a free 7, and then the Dolphins defense gave up a 7 the next drive. And you're down 14-0 in the first quarter. After that, you probably played the game pretty competitively. You technically outscored them in the next 3 quarters, but the Dolphins dug themselves too big of a hole, left too many points on the field, some poor decision making. I know people will always talk about the cold weather stuff. I think the cold weather stuff definitely played a part in the defense, and we'll break that down. Tomorrow they missed 20 tackles. Offensively, it maybe played a little bit when it came to run blocking. But the Dolphins haven't been able to run the ball for weeks. Another game, they couldn't run the ball at all. Once Austin Jackson went down, the run game has been pretty much non-existent. But they were able to throw the ball and find some success. Packers, kept a lot of the things in front of them, but Dolphins were able to find some success on those drives. I think, this drive right here, where they didn't score down from the 1 on 3 straight plays, this is where pretty much the game closed itself out. The guards were an issue in this game for sure. Packers were able to get pretty good pressure as well. Red zone failure pretty much gifted them that game very early on. Dolphins' margin of error is just super small. Feels like you have to ask players to play perfectly, almost. Like Tua in this game, I thought Tua had some misses, and I think maybe his stat line is a little overinflated. But overall, I thought he played pretty solid to good for a majority of this game. He was one of the few players that I actually think showed up. But when you have to play absolutely perfect against just good teams over and over again, it's a tough ask. And they were pretty much putting themselves in that position with how bad they went down pretty much instantly and just leaving too many plays on the field. And I feel like with that, since that running game hasn't been working, that's going to be a huge problem for this team. I think the team needs, I've talked about this, the team needs more dogs. That's where they should be going, and they need more interior help, and they can definitely still be a functional offense even with this offensive line. And there will definitely be overreactions to this game too, but there's definitely valid criticisms to take away pretty much across the board. But I think really it was that start of the game where you pretty much lost it right away. So we'll go back, start from the beginning, actually start breaking down some of these plays. I think just showing the running game, I feel like the Dolphins got pretty cute with some of their play calling. They're trying to go for the counter action here. Liam just loses his rep right away, and that kind of just blows this play up. It's a long developing run too, and the Packers run blitz. They got aggressive downhill. Liam loses his battle very quickly, and it forces Smythe, who's pulling up through, to kick out this guy, and it's just HN has to make a guy miss instantly, and then there's just multiple people then unblocked after that, and pretty much that rep is ruined because Eichenberg is on his knees, which is, a common occurrence. I do feel like that's where, and it's not like Liam and Jones have been just horrible this year, but they're just, at best, serviceable. They're in big games, not going to play great football. Kendall Lamb has done a decent job as a pass protector, but is not giving you anything in the run game. And this was probably Armstead's worst game of the season, so the O-line just across the board had a really rough game. The tight ends are giving you nothing as blockers either right now. Either getting penalties like Smythe, Julian Hill, just not giving you what you need. Dolphins need to upgrade at that Y position for sure in the offseason. Also, Dolphins have put themselves, the season is not over. You have to win out. I think if the Dolphins win out, they make playoffs. They have a very good shot of making playoffs if they win out. And the schedule is very winnable, but that's why your margin for error super low. And it's very tough to just win 5 games in a row, even if you have a fairly easy schedule. And then you have a play like this, where one, it's just poor execution. They go for the fake screen draw. The timing of it's messed up. Either Tua's a little bit late or Achane goes too quick. It gets messed up, so you just lose 3 yards. And the worst part, this is 2nd and 10 too, so at best now it's 3rd and 13. But then after the fact, they call a 15-yard penalty on Jonnu Smith. Or I think it was Jonnu. They called a 15-yard penalty on someone for fighting after the play, even though I think the other guy started it. I believe it was on Jonnu. But then Jonnu pushed to the helmet. So then they get a 15-yard penalty after that, and then it was 3rd and 23. So your first drive, done. And that was just your first drive. Next time you touch the field, which is this drive, Dolphins are down 14-0 and already into the second quarter. So that's like why the game was so out of hand. You can't do that versus good teams, and the Packers are a good team. Because after this, you actually did some decent things on offense, but still little small problems that just, you can't have in those games. Packers clearly were trying to keep a lid on things. They did not want them to take a deep shot. They were fine with underneath passes and maybe some passes over the middle to Tyreek and Waddle. We'll see the Dolphins start to hit those glance routes, but you can see the effect. They go for that open up, leave Alec Ingold open underneath. They were actually able to find some decent success with that type of play. This is a 4th down. Lots of problems with delay of games, getting the play in late. Tua's got to be better. McDaniel's got to be better, I think, in those situations. But they got a delay of game, and then they got an offsides on the field goal that they attempted, so now they were back on the field. This is actually a good play from Tua, and Packers only bring 3, so they're actually able to protect pretty well here. And Tua's able to go through his reads from, 1 to 2, doesn't see anything open, gets to 3 where Tyreek's working down the middle. Actually good coverage by this linebacker. He stays patient, and then just good ball, layering this over this defensive lineman. Thank God this is a D lineman, not a linebacker, because he probably would have gained more depth and would have made the throw a little more difficult, but good job from Tua to Waddle there. And at this point in the game, you're down 14-0. If you can make this game 14-7, you're right back into it. But unfortunately, red zone play calling kind of kills you again. Your first play is a jet sweep, and it's not necessarily that I think running just a jet sweep handoff here to Achane from the 9 is the worst play call, in most situations. But the problem is, you have not established a run at all. So you have to be able to establish outside zone to the left here. If you were able to run outside zone to the left successfully, this edge would feel more, he would have to be able to constrict down. If you were able to set up the run, he'd be like, oh, I have to be there for the cutback lane, be disciplined. But since he doesn't feel that threat at all, he just shoots upfield, and Achane has no shot. Because it's designed to leave this guy unblocked. They do this all the time. And a lot of times they get around this defensive end with no problems. If he gets around the defensive end, you have Waddle on this guy, Jonnu up there. The play at least gets a one-on-one with Achane with a safety, and he probably at least gains a few yards on the play. But this pretty much just kills the drive because you lose 4 or 5 yards because of the play call in this situation. You have to be able to run the ball successfully. Do you actually even attempt that stuff? Because then after the fact, you threw a screen that gained 0 yards, and then it's 3rd and 15, and there was no shot to score. So they took a field goal, leaving too many opportunities on the board like that. And then they just kind of would have good plays like this. This was a very good play from Tua. The whole shot, he reads this corner. They know, Tua knows he's been hitting a lot of these quick routes, either, quick outs. They're running stick here. He sees this DB, this corner, squeeze on it. No, he's covered 2. Good throw placement to Mostert. Mostert makes a nice catch while getting hit too. I know Mostert's had his fumbling issues, but I think they kind of need to get him more involved in the offense. Even though he's kind of lost them a couple games. It's just they need that sort of threat in certain situations. And he's made some tough plays, so. But then after the fact, then you have this. You get a running play, 1st and 10 after, and you get a holding call, and it gets nothing. So Robert Jones gets beat by 93. He's not able to, get any leverage advantage, and then he gets the holding call there. All the other reps, kind of thrown up there. Walker is able to come in unblocked. Brewer's forced to pick between either linebacker, and Eichenberg, Jones don't really win their battle either. But then Jones gets a holding call, and now after this play, 1st and 20, and you just kind of kill your momentum on those drives. And this was the final play. They actually got on the first and 20 play. They actually had a pretty successful play to Jonnu, but then this was the 3rd down. Packers did a good job showing pressure and still only bringing 4 and getting unblocked people. So Dolphins slide to the right here. If you look at their O-line, Packers come out here with basically 3 to each side, even show the nickel potentially, but they slide to the right. Walker bails out, but since they still only end up bringing 4, Armstead thinks like he's gonna have help with his running back to this side, and he's like, okay, I have to make sure if McDuffie comes, then I have to block 94. Once he realizes, okay, that linebacker bails, then I get out to the guy, but it's too late. Um, so just a clear miscommunication. I think honestly, Armstead could have played this better as well, and Mostert should have helped here. They clearly had just that miscommunication, and then there's just literally no chance for Tua, and that was another drive sort of just killed. I thought this was probably the drive where I thought Tua, like this was the drive right before half. This is the one where I thought Tua had some missed opportunities. Pretty much the missed throws he had of this game. Not necessarily this one as much. It will be the play after this. This one he had a little bit of miss, but this is a high anticipatory throw. And if you watch it, like he's releasing this ball way before Tyreek breaks. He hasn't even come close to the runner. And this is the problem sometimes with these high anticipation throws is you and the receiver have to be on the exact same page. Tyreek also slips a little bit right there, as you can see. He slips. If he's able to not slip and jump, he still makes that catch. Now, because it hits him in the hand while he's falling to the ground. So if he's able to jump, he probably makes that catch pretty easily, and we're not even talking about the ball placement. The ball is a little bit off, but when you're throwing the ball with anticipation, sometimes you're more just being like, okay, I just need you to make that catch behind the two, even though he could have put this ball more towards the middle of the field. But he felt like he had to layer it over the top of these underneath defenders. But it is a miss, but it is also a play I feel like Tyreek could have made. Just missed opportunity, I think, there for both of Tua and Tyreek in that situation. Could have been a potentially huge play, and it would have allowed you to score at least a field goal before half, and it also would have been like, also the Packers wouldn't have scored their field goal because they scored another field goal right before half. There was just too many point swings in this game. Like I felt like the Dolphins actually could have brought this game back if they didn't have like just these small little mistakes, but that's the margin for error thing. Also, I think the Dolphins should have just kicked a field goal here. I know it was a long one and, not the best weather conditions, but this is like a 4th and 5, and you have no timeouts either way. Like, if you converting this 4th down, you're not scoring a touchdown on this drive. If you had time to score a touchdown, I understand going for this, but all you're doing is potentially making a shorter field goal, and I don't think it's worth it. And then also, this was Tua's miss here. He starts to the right. I think he makes the correct decision not to, he comes off of this, gets to the backside here, and Achan's like his 4th option. Like he goes from, Malik and Waddle, boom, up the field. Tyreek covered, and he does a good job stepping up in the pocket right here, feel the pressure, reset his feet. I just think, you're having a running back run the route down the field. I do think, I've talked about it, the Dolphins need at least one bigger option at receiver. They need someone who can play with a little more of a dog mentality and just a bigger body who's smart and tough. So Tua doesn't always have to be super precise, but I think, Tua saw this linebacker when he was coming on his backside, and he also had a D lineman in his face, and I think he just put the ball too high, trying to layer to the top, but and he misses him. He goes too high. Achan isn't there to make the play. I actually think the move here is, because Tua, I think, had a little bit extra time in the pocket. I think if Tua maybe gave a little bit of extra half second, instead of trying to force this, and because this linebacker he thinks is going to be in that throwing lane, but he comes down that step as he releases it. If Tua wakes an extra half second, he can wait for Achan to work into like this window, and then that would have made the throw much easier. And then they just missed that, and it's a 4th down. So that was like, I think, the drive that Tua would for sure like back. This was something they were hitting throughout the game. They would play action, pull a guard, and then boom, Tua's quick reset the feet, and then they have Jonnu on a quick hitter. This is something that's been very successful for the Dolphins, and it was successful in this game, worked multiple times. They also got a little bit lucky, though, because Jonnu did fumble, and it fortunately went out of bounds. But that's just something to show that I feel like the Dolphins have been good at over the past few weeks, and it can stay in this game, because I had to show this at least once, because that play worked like 3 or 4 times. But yeah. Then continue this drive down the field. Huge 4th down conversion. This is their touchdown drive, I believe. So Tua, good play. They bring 4, better blocking. Good job by Tua feeling some of the pressure, stepping up in the pocket, giving himself time. Allows this to get open. He knows he has time in this pocket. He could hit Tyreek underneath, but he knows Jonnu's going to come open in this window. This guy drives on that. Boom. Layer this. Hit Jonnu over the middle. Jonnu, obviously a bigger body, more reliable target in those things. Then these plays. This is something that the 2023 Dolphins were able to do a lot. The glance routes at about 10 to 15 yard range, all timing off of play action. So you do that with the play action. You have Tyreek in the flat, puts these defenders in conflict. You're just reading this guy. This guy gets widened just enough. You throw with anticipation, timing over the middle to that guy. And they were actually able to hit this throw like 5 times throughout this game. They hit this at a more consistent rate, but it just came too late. Second half. But this was a good drive. Like, this was still when, you're trying to come back into it. Then you run the angle screen route, which this has probably been the Dolphins' most successful red zone play. Achane, I feel like, has scored on this exact play like 5 times this season. And good job by Robert Jones and Aaron Brewer out in space on this play. Got to give him credit here, even though I think overall it wasn't the greatest O-line performance. Also, you can see the burst from Achane, just get all that space to work with. That's when the offense can be cooking. Also, the 2-point conversion play was actually insane because the play from Tua and Waddle, crazy, because one, he starts to left here, doesn't like what he sees. Waddle is basically like his 4th or 5th option on the play, and he's feeling pressure. He's throwing off his back foot, floats it, puts it where only his receiver can get it, and then Waddle somehow gets 2 feet in bounds. Like, really impressive play for both of them. And that actually was a big play because it did make it now a 2-score game. And if you don't get that, that was a 3-score game. Gave yourself at least somewhat of a chance, even though at this point it was kind of over. Good job from Tua here, stepping up in the pocket, play action, timing of the plays thrown off. But by doing that, you suck the linebackers down. Good job getting his eyes back down, finding Tyreek down the field. Big play opportunities. I still feel like really Tua was one of the only players to actually show up in this game. Armstead kind of just feel like they're showing pressure again. Armstead gets his eyes on 55. Once 55 doesn't blitz, now he's got to get back to Gary. He's too late. He's too late getting back to Gary. Like, I understand with how this is working, they're sliding to the right here. And they have 3 over there, but with 55 not coming, Armstead has to recognize that and find the guy. And one, I mean, it doesn't matter because Tua does a great job getting this ball out. And this was a big 3rd down completion to Odell. Good timing. Good accuracy. And then also, I'm actually surprised they didn't call this roughing because he did leave his feet and launch at his head. Thankfully, he didn't get a clean shot on his head, so he stayed healthy. But now the Dolphins get down to the 1, and this is pretty much where the game ends. They decide to run the ball once from the 1. It was first and goal from the 9. They had an 8-yard run from Achane. Now they get down here. This is where I would like to see more Raheem Mostert, but I don't even think it was necessarily Achane being in there because, one, Kendall Lamb just loses at the point of attack. Right here to Kendall Lamb. This is where you miss having Austin Jackson. He loses at the point of attack. There's nowhere for Achane to go here. He can't bounce to the outside. This guy has the edge set. He has to just take on Gary. He actually takes him on and even falls forward, gets back to the line of scrimmage when he probably should have lost a yard. So I don't think having, obviously I think they should have more of a road grading back just for this situation, but even having Mostert in there, and that's kind of where, personally, I would just keep either pounding the rock. This is where I kind of have the issues right now because this is the red zone play calling. You still have Achane in there. I would bring Mostert at least to show the threat, like, oh, we might still run the ball up the middle. But I don't feel like the Dolphins are the best play action from the 1 red zone type of team. To me, they should spread the ball out. When the Dolphins are able to spread the ball out, I feel like they're more successful either throwing the ball from the 1. Also, if you're spread out, I feel like you have a better chance of running the ball. I get why McDaniel wouldn't want to run the ball here because it hasn't worked all game. But I would still run the ball. But if you're not going to run the ball, I'd rather spread it out. Because here they go, play action boot. They get all this pressure in the face of Tua. He has to throw the ball to Jonnu. He gets there. I mean, it could have potentially been pass interference because the DB does get there early. It's not called. Whatever. This isn't, though, like, necessarily the worst play call. The 4th down is more of the issue. Again, the only player in right now, like, look at your personnel. Waddle's the only one. You still have Achane, but you're not running the ball. He's in the backfield. You have Ingold, you have Julian Hill, you have Durham Smythe, and you go play action? Like, where's Tua supposed to go with this ball? Ingold's on the ground. Waddle is taken away. Smythe is taken away. You also, even if Tua did something like miraculous and created off script, you get a holding call on Liam Eichenberg, so the play wouldn't have counted. You go play action. I think you just spread this out, make so it's not as congested in the middle, and you can either throw the ball and then potentially maybe run it if that's where you want to go for. But damn, man, really don't like this play call. I don't like the personnel that's on the field. Like, no Jonnu, no Tyreek Hill. really don't understand what they were going for on this play. There's nowhere, and then Tua gets sacked. Pretty much no opportunity, no shot. And that's pretty much where the game ended. After this, the Dolphins, will cheat another. They had another successful drive. I wouldn't say this one. I think the last drive was like garbage time, where Tua padded his stats a little bit. This drive wasn't necessarily garbage time. Like the 2 plays before this, the Packers were still like blitzing, getting after the quarterback, and they weren't just giving up super easy completions. This is something they were kind of hitting all game. This was actually a good play from Tua timing. Look at the anticipation to hit this window, like to throw this ball. This is just where Tua's at his best, and they were actually able to hit this multiple times throughout the game. I mean, if you look at Tua's stat line, it actually was insane. You would look at that and be like, oh, probably pretty close. It wasn't even that that close, at least final score wise. And then that was a good play. They got a lucky touchdown though. Tua tries to throw the back shoulder to Jonnu on a quick hitter because the safety has inside leverage. Ball gets tipped up, good play, and it just lands in Tyreek Hill's hand. So they got a lucky touchdown there to actually score here. It was a 1st and 10 play, so I mean they still could have scored after this, but they didn't get lucky basically until it didn't matter. And then after this, it was all pure garbage time. There was nothing to break down. So just an unfortunate game versus a very good team. It was a game I would have bet on the Packers to win, but the Dolphins should have kept it much closer. I really think they just beat themselves early on, like by all the things that I said. And also, I don't think I mentioned it, the Dolphins just weren't as good on 3rd down in this game. The Dolphins, since Tua's returned, have been amazing on 3rd down. Also, their red zone offense has been much better, and that was kind of the probably the difference for the offense, at least in this game. Also, the difference just overall compared to other games is you went down 14-0 because of special teams, and then a defensive drive and one poor offensive drive basically put you down 14-0 instantly. But like the problem throughout the game is you weren't great on 3rd down to convert, whether that was an O-line issue, a Tua issue, a receiver issue, whatever, or just a penalty issue. And then you also just had poor, I think, red zone play calling and weren't able to convert in those situations. So just a problem for the team that continues. You got to win out. You play the Jets next, which is a very winnable game. You try to get back on track. But then after that is probably your 2 tougher ones, Texans and Niners. Both teams who are not playing that great and that can be beaten, but those are no gimmies. I don't think any of the games are gimmies. Like, even though you play the Jets who have been bad, it's still a divisional game. You play the Browns in Cleveland. I don't think that's a gimme. Even though those are games you should win, there's no there's no freebies left on the schedule, even though it's a fairly weak schedule. So we'll see how it plays out. One more loss, and I'll probably get more heavy into draft season, but this season's not over completely. I know there's definitely, there's always overreaction on pretty much every version NFL team's Twitter, to be honest, after a loss. Especially for Dolphins, like they lose one game and it's back to firing everyone. But there's definitely issues that were had, and I talked about them throughout this video. So if you guys enjoyed it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and see you next time. Peace.